Hi, I'm Barb, and I'm going to give you a little history on the World Mission Rosary and then instructions on how to make it. The World Mission Rosary actually began in 1951 under Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen through a society called the Propagation of the Faith. The word propagation is a fancy word for spreading, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to help spread the faith, and you're going to evangelize by making a rosary. Now, this rosary will be given to people who cannot afford a rosary or don't have access to a rosary. So the very first thing you need is you need access to scissors, and then you need a bowl to put your container, your kit in, and then you need a kit. The very first thing is to put the contents of the rosary into a kit, and you'll notice that there is a string, and you may or may not find that at the end of one of these strings it will be more hard than the other one. In fact, it might even be marked with a black marker. That's because the people who put these kits together wanted to make it easy for you. But if you don't have it that way, that's fine. Now, this is called bonded thread. Bonded means it should not fray, but we do find that it has been fraying. So if it does fray, don't struggle with it. You have plenty of string for a rosary. Just keep on cutting off an inch or two, and you'll be fine. If you take a look in your bowl, you will see that there are a series of beads. This bead we are going to refer to as a spacer. It is white, pearlized, and elongated bead. This black round bead is going to be for the Our Father. And then you'll notice that in your bowl you have 5 different colors of beads. Now, Father Steve Dudek, who is from the mission office of the diocese, is the one who's sponsoring us to make these rosaries. And you'll notice that there's 5 different colors, and they are to represent 5 different areas of the world. The green is to represent the grasslands of Africa. The blue represents all the bodies of land that are surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. The gold is for Asia, where the sun kind of rises in the east. The white is for Europe and the purity of our church. And then red is for the missionary zeal of the people who came across to spread the faith into both continents, North and South America, so for both the Americas. Okay, you need to grab the centerpiece. Now, the centerpiece has 2 holes on the top and 1 hole on the bottom. So you are going to take one of the holes by Blessed Mother's head, and you're actually going to insert the string through the hole, and you need to just insert it like 4 or 5 inches because you're going to make a series of knots. Now, if this happens to be your stringing end, if you happen to have one of those strings that has a good end of string, you actually want to pull it all the way through so that you're retaining that stringing end. All right? Now, when you're making these knots, you are going to make them just like how you tie your shoe. You're going to cross it, and then you're going to come through and pull tight. Now, you're going to do this 6 times because we really want a solid knot here. Now, you're going to start off by taking your stringing end, and you're going to go spacer 10 of any color. Okay, now these kits have been lovingly put together by people, but they're volunteers, and that we found out that there are some errors. And so I wanted to let you know that this rosary has to be standard. By standard, I mean it has to be, each rosary has to be the same. So what you're going to do is spacer 10 of a color. That means you're done with 1 decade. Spacer, black one, spacer, 10 of another color. Okay, after I've completed my knots, I'm going to start with the spacer, 10 of any color, and I'm going to try the red because I know that the red is the most difficult. And as I'm doing this, I can save time by beating them all this way instead of pulling each one down. I'm just going to put all of them here on the top. Now I'm going to make sure and count that I have 10 of them. And I'm thinking about this, when people pray the rosary, this will be for South and North America. We also know that these rosaries will probably end up in either one of 2 places. They'll probably either end up in Haiti, which is the poorest country in North America, or it will end up in some country in the continent of Africa. Okay, now I am just going to double check and make sure that I have 10 because I believe that this is my last red. So I'm going to pull it all the way down to the end, and I'm going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I've completed my first decade. Now I'm going to do spacer, black one, spacer, okay, and now I'm ready for my next color. Now you can pick any other color, and I'm going to take green. Remember, green is the grasslands of Africa, and again, each decade is going to be 10 because we want to keep it standard. As I'm going through, I'm thinking about, somebody on the other, somebody's going very special is going to be saying, using this rosary, praying and becoming closer to Our Lady. And it's because of your efforts. Again, I want to make sure that it goes all the way down to the end, and I want to make sure I have 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay? So then I continue, spacer, the Our Father, spacer, and now 10 of another color. I'm doing gold. Do you remember what gold stands for? What part of the world? Remember, this is a World Mission Rosary. Gold would stand for Asia. So we think about all the people in Asia and the prayers that they need. And again, 10. All right. Again, I'm going to pull this through, and I'm going to make sure I have 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Spacer, black one, spacer. Now I'm ready for my next decade. Now we're on blue. Do you remember what blue stands for? That one was a little bit different because usually we're talking about bodies of water, but now the blue is going to stand for bodies of land that are surrounded by water, and it would be the blue water of the Pacific Ocean. Again, I'm doing 10, and I'm saving time by not taking each one down because that would take a lot longer to do it, a lot more time to do it. So now we have the fourth decade done. Again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right. And spacer, black one, spacer. Now we're on our fifth decade of the Rosary, and that is white. And white stood for Europe. And we think of how the Vatican is in Europe, where our Pope is. Again, we're counting 10. Make sure that we have 10. Sure that you want to make sure everything is accurate on your rosary so that whoever is going to be using it to pray will have the best possible rosary you could make. All right, here we go. We're going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now we are at the point where all we need to do is put one spacer on, and then we're going to check for symmetry. And we are going to make sure that everything lines up. Now we have the body of the rosary completed, so I'm going to put my string through the other hole by Blessed Mother's head, and I'm going to pull it tight, but I'm going to have to leave enough room so that when people pray the rosary, they can have the beads move a little bit. We want them to move about as much as a spacer. So I'm going to allow for about an inch because I'm going to make those 6 knots, and that's going to take up some of the room. So I am going to make my knots between the centerpiece and the spacer. So I'm going to take my knot, I'm going to cross, pull it through the hole. Now this takes some manipulating, so don't get discouraged. All right, there's my first knot. Did you remember that we're going to do 6? And if you find that you've left too much room, or you can always take a knot out. Or if you have too much room, you can put in an extra knot. All right, that's 3. And I really want to hold to that 6 number. And I'm really going to tug on this now. Really tug. All right, now we're done with the body of the rosary, so I don't need either one of these strings. So I'm going to cut as close as I can and actually cut that off. And the same with the other one. And that part of the rosary is complete. Now I'm going to take my extra long piece and I'm going to thread it. And you know, this part of my string is better than this end. This end is frayed It's going to be more difficult for me to bead, so I'm going to not use that end. Okay, our 6 knots again. Now be patient with yourself. Keep on going on, because you don't want to do a really good job with the body of the rosary and then kind of forget to do enough knots on the top so that the top doesn't stay. You want the whole rosary to be a job well done. All right, so now we are ready for the very, very end of the rosary. And that would be spacer, black 1, spacer. Now you should have 3 beads left over. Now these beads can be of the same color, a different color. Again, if you need beads, ask your teacher. If you need any help, ask your teacher for help, right? And these 3 are for the Hail Marys. Spacer, black 1, spacer, and now it's time to put on the crucifix. Now you're going to put your string through the crucifix. Now the crucifix, this part, the crucifix can be tight right to these other beads. They don't have to move. So I'm going to make my series of knots between the crucifix and that spacer. There's just a little room there, but I'm going to do it. All right, I'm going to pull it super tight and make sure that everything is tight. And guess what? We are done. The last thing we're going to do is trim these 2 threads. This one by the crucifix, and the other one by the centerpiece by Mary's torso. And now your World Mission Rosary is complete and ready to go to somebody very special.